Welcome to the ANEW Insight Podcast, empowering and inspiring your journey to optimal health. Hosted by Dr. Supatra Tovar, clinical psychologist, registered dietitian, fitness expert, and author of Deprogram Diet Culture. Rethink your relationship with food, heal your mind, and live a diet-free life. I follow my guests' journey to optimal health, providing you with the keys to unlock your own wellness path. Tune in and evolve with us. Welcome back to the ANEW Insight Podcast. We are back for the second half of our interview with health coach, author, and weight loss for food lovers podcaster, Molly Zemek. Molly gave us some invaluable insight into her inspiration to spread her message of resilience and success in weight loss. We cannot wait to learn more. Welcome back, Molly.
Thanks so much for having me, Dr. Tovar. Good to be here.
Oh, we're so glad to have you. Now, we talked a lot about weight loss in the first part of this episode. And this second half, we also want to touch on something that I don't think a lot of people talk about in terms of weight loss, but it was the drinking portion of what you were engaging in before.
Yes.
And I know, especially during the pandemic, it was all about quarantinis. It was about whatever wine o'clock that would help us get through the pandemic. So tell people about your revelations about your drinking and why you were engaging in that. And then how did you learn how to have a healthier relationship with alcohol?
Yeah, absolutely. So I mentioned in the first part of the podcast about being trained as a sommelier and my real passion for wine. In fact, I was the person that people would call for wine advice. Oh, could you recommend a good wine? I enjoyed it. It was very much part of the fine dining world that I was involved in as a chef. So I'd never in a million years imagine myself as somebody who was not drinking on a regular basis. It was just very much a part of my identity. But when I was in my 40s, around the time that I embarked on this journey of weight loss, I started waking up in the middle of the night with a lot of anxiety. And all I can say, Dr. Tovar, is that I had this intuitive sense that it was the drinking. Again, I never considered myself an alcoholic. I would have maybe 2 to 3 glasses of wine, but it was affecting me in a very negative way. It became clear to me through this intuitive sense that the wine was a problem. It was about 2 years before I decided to do anything about it. I had this awareness that the drinking was holding me back, that it was affecting me, that it just wasn't having a positive influence on my life. But I couldn't imagine myself not drinking. Like it was part of my family. I mean, my Italian ancestors made wine in their basement. It was part of the food culture that I was deeply embedded in. And so I really wasn't ready to admit that I needed to change. I didn't tell my husband. I just sat with this awareness that was coming from my body. I listened to my body. I sat with it, but I wasn't willing to do anything. And I started on the journey that I described to you in the last episode about changing my relationship with food. And I just said to myself, I'm not going to do anything different with the drinking right now. I'm going to just focus on the food, pay attention to the overeating, practice listening to urges and doing all of the work surrounding that. But what happened, and you and your listeners can probably relate to this, is that the more that I started listening to my body and the better I felt, the more obvious it became that the drinking was really having a negative impact on me.
Totally.
Right?
Say more. Yes.
And so it was like, how can I continue doing all of this work on my emotional life, on my mental health, on my relationship with food, and then continue to drink and feel terrible and not sleep well, wake up in a worse mood. And it was contradictory. And so I started to apply the same approach to drinking that I did with food. I started to just really give myself some distance from the drinking, whereas I didn't restrict it because I didn't want to tell myself you can never have a glass of wine. I could tell, just like I know with food, that would create a lot more temptation for it. That if it was off limits, it would become the forbidden fruit. I just said, it's not off limits, but I'm just going to give myself a little bit of a break and see how I feel without it. And I thought of it as an experiment. And I started during my journey with my podcast listeners. I started talking about it inside of my program. And I started having more and more people come to me who needed help with their drinking. Because my whole approach to this was that I'm not interested in giving up drinking. I don't feel like I need to swear it off. Again, I'm not an alcoholic. I don't feel like I need to do that. But I also want to just feel more in control. I want to be able to drink less. I don't want to be somebody who's drinking every night just because it really affects me in a negative way. So I started really being a lot more thoughtful about when I would drink. I started listening to my body more. I started making decisions ahead of time and really following through on my plan. And I started to lose desire for it and simultaneously find new ways to enjoy myself without drinking, find new ways to connect with people without drinking. And so it's just interesting how much this resonates with people who want to be able to drink less, but don't want to have to give it up altogether and maybe feeling like they're not sure how to do that. And what I learned is that for the right kind of person who's not an alcoholic, who doesn't feel like they're physically dependent, you can have a different relationship with alcohol. You can learn how to drink less. You can be a lot more mindful, and you can have a totally different experience with it.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I'm so on board with you because that's exactly what I went through. And I had the same inkling. A big part of my inability to lose weight or just feeling stuck had a lot to do with drinking as well.
Yes.
As just not having the complete awareness about how drinking was affecting my body. Give a picture of how you experienced effects. And maybe this will help people just turn that little light switch on and see that they may be experiencing the same thing. And if they're like both of us and we're not restrictive and we don't want to give something up, how can they go about reducing or just becoming more aware or more intentional with their drinking?
Yeah. Well, it really starts with listening to your body, like I've said before. And that's where it started for me. I started paying attention to the anxiety that I was feeling. For a long time, I thought that the anxiety was just something that I inherited from my mom, who always dealt with anxiety. Well, she's a drinker too. And so I didn't realize the connection between alcohol and anxiety until I gave myself a break from drinking. I'm like, oh, wow, I'm not experiencing any anxiety. That's amazing. What relief to not be dealing with this anxiety. So that was one symptom for me, was just increased anxiety from drinking. And it got worse the older I got. Inability to sleep, which is another terrible thing that happens from drinking, is waking up in the middle of the night after a couple of hours and not being able to sleep for 3 to 4 hours, feeling completely drained the next day, increased cravings to eat. I'm sure a lot of your listeners who drink can relate to this, just mindless eating, a lot more mindless eating when I was drinking, and then feeling physically worse as a result of that. Let's see, there was one other thing that I was thinking of related to drinking. Yeah, irritability. Depression. Yeah. And anxiety is as correlated with depression. So it was, also indigestion and acid reflux. Once I dramatically cut back on my drinking, all of that went away. And that was just such relief as well. So that is a little bit of the picture of what I was experiencing from the drinking. Sometimes you don't know until you actually take a break from something. It's just like with food allergies. You don't always know. And it's like, oh, wow, I'm not feeling this way and I haven't been drinking for the last couple of days. Wow, I didn't realize alcohol was having that effect on my system. Another thing that people describe to me who need help with this is just the constant thinking about alcohol, constantly anticipating it, revolving your schedule around when you can have that drink. And just a lot of people who decide that they want to change their relationship with alcohol are just tired of putting so much attention on it and thinking about it, all of the mental chatter, which I think increases the more that you drink. And then the process of changing it, I think, looks like taking some kind of a break